And we are live. GM Legendary. How are you doing? This NFT World episode. Do you know what episode it is?
It's episode 7, GM.
Correct. It is episode 7. Um, which means we've been running for almost 2 months, which is pretty good.
Yeah. And I like how I start with a little quiz in my morning that I have to figure out what episode it is.
Yeah, because I told you what we would start with, and then we didn't start with it. I'm just asking you other questions in order
Yeah.
to,
Feels like back
yeah.
in school, huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna do that more often. I enjoy that. How's it going, man? This is a tough week for many people. Obviously, this is called NFT World, so we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the NFT market in general. However, there are other broader, bigger considerations that are sort of weighing down the space at the moment. So we want to dive into a little bit of that, and then we also want to go into some of our own project stuff, which has also been affected by many of the things already mentioned, um, but in another respect has gone quite well. So, what's your general feeling at the moment about the NFT space?
Well, it is a obviously highly volatile time, but if I compare it to the 27 2018 bear market, where obviously the NFT scene hasn't been that big, the community, the infrastructure that has been built over the last years hasn't existed back then. It's interesting to see a bear market with a way bigger community and where still NFT trades are going on. Like if we look at OpenSea, the trading volume on offers, so trading volume in wrapped ETH is on an all-time high. And yes, we don't have any six-figure floor collections anymore right now. But if you look at Bored Apes, for example, the floor isn't too thick, and there's still a decent amount of trading volume going on. But I feel like, of course, the general market and NFT market slowed down because of the high level of uncertainty. And first of all, people being wrecked, but people also wondering, how low will it go? Is this the bottom? Is the bottom still far away? But it certainly feels different and kind of more positive from a community perspective than 2017 2018. At least back then I got the feeling that many people were actually contemplating if ETH is dead, if that's it. And right now I have the feeling that it's more okay, it's a bear market. It could be a longer bear market if we look at global inflation, and the global economic situation. But I don't hear that same ETH is dead chatter that I heard back then.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to all that market stuff. That's interesting stuff. But one of the things you pointed out, which I was thinking about a little bit, was there are no six figure. Would you say there's no six figure floor? No, there's no six figure collections anymore. I.e., profile picture style projects that have a six figure floor. Do you think that is something that will never come back? Because I've seen that some people's opinion is that that was all completely stupid. That is not a situation that we're going to have again. But one thing that I was thinking was that there's a market, there's a high end market for every single thing, always in every single industry, in every single type of consumer product. There's
Yeah.
always a high end. So in some respects, I think that there will be one. I don't know if it will necessarily be the ones that already exist, but I think that there will always be something. And in an environment where we are online all the time and your profile picture becomes the thing which you are essentially putting forward to the world on all occasions, across platforms all the time, it would strike me that human behavior might very well tend towards wanting something exceptionally expensive to show that off.
Yeah, and I actually have to, stand corrected because I just had another look at the current ETH price and current Bored Ape floor, and it seems like the Bored Ape floor as of right now is exactly 101K. So we do have a six-figure collection floor again. But of course, this could change every minute. But going back to your question, I'm a bit of a watch aficionado. And if you look at watches and you look at something like, Richard Mille, where you have watches that range very, very high in the six figures with limited editions that, of course, have a very low edition count that hit the seven figures or almost the seven figures as well. There obviously is a high-end market for everything. And I think if NFTs will face mass adoption in the future, which I think they will, then those brands, if they stay around, will prevail. And they will be they could be the ultimate luxury items of the future. So yes, the NFT market was overheated if you look at the amount of collections that just pumped for no kind of reason at all. But I wouldn't say that having a six-figure floor collection per se is something unreasonable or crazy.
Yeah, I think there will be. I think, like as you said, you can buy a watch for $5, or you can buy a watch for 500,000. I suspect. I don't know, but
yeah. And if you look at the watch market, like if you look at Rolex and the craze for stainless steel watches, and especially those that aren't produced anymore, where the prices kept going up for a very long while. I think now they topped a bit, but it was like the same kind of reasoning. Rolex stopped manufacturing that watch, and their demand has always in the last couple of years been higher than the supply, and of course that especially affected pieces that were out of production. And in the same line of thought, you can make the argument that, well, Bored Apes, there's never going to be more than the 10K original ones. Of course, there's going to be additional future collections, but the original Bored Apes won't be quote unquote manufactured anymore. So if you guys going to stick around and they have the war chest and the team to do that, I don't see a reason why at some point in the future, when we are back in an upcycle, why their collection shouldn't hold value anymore and shouldn't be a six-figure collection. I mean, of course, it could be completely wrong, right? And it could all go to zero, but this is just my hypothesis and obviously not financial advice.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know what the situation is there. We were speaking a little bit off air about some random scenario, or I don't even know how to describe it. A random dilemma, another situation of controversy with OK Bears or not OK Bears. Is this something? What's going on there?
Yeah, I noticed that the not OK Bears, which are a derivative of the OK Bears are on Solana, the not OK Bears are on ETH. The OK Bears have currently a floor price of 100 Sol, and I've seen the not OK Bears are on the move, and they moved from like a 0.1 to a 0.2 ETH floor price, and I'm kind of trying to figure out what's happening behind the scenes. If there's a couple of rumors around OK Bears. There's also maybe a couple of people that like the not OK Bears claim of it's okay not to be okay, especially in that market. So that's going to be interesting to watch over the next couple of days.
So which bears are okay to buy?
That's a very good question that I still need to find the answer to.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just avoiding all bears at the moment. Bears are not something I want to think about. As I was telling you earlier, I was meant to have a bit of a rest yesterday, but instead I ended up buying some art, which was really cool. I bought the full set. Well, there were 3 pieces available in Nifty Gateway by Osinachi, who's this really cool Nigerian NFT artist who produces. I think he produces all this stuff in Microsoft Word. I don't even really understand how he does it because that sounds absurd. I don't understand the process. I'd love to find out more, but I've always thought his style was really cool. It's very unique, and it made me feel good. So that's why I bought it in a bear market. The prices of everything are going down, and I thought smart would make me feel good, and it did. So that's what I'd recommend to people.
And this is, this is a very important point to make, and a very important aspect to look at collections, pieces of art that make people feel good, right? That just, entertain them, especially in times like right now. There's recently been another run on Goblin Town.
Another
So,
one.
yeah, I mean, of course they're down as well, but there has been some very decent buy amount on goblins as well. And I think, people want to be entertained and want to have a distraction from the bear market situation right now. And this is a very, good point to keep in mind when you look at something. If it makes you feel good, if it entertains you in a way, and you're not the only one with a sentiment, this could be a very interesting buy in the current environment.
Yeah, one of the things which I've been thinking is like when I guess the bear market, one of the things it makes you think about is what you actually really want to have in your collection / your portfolio. And just an interesting observation or self-reflection on myself and my own collection is the stuff that I feel most comfortable about, and the stuff that I feel really easy with is the art, to be honest. Like I don't feel the need to check the floor price on those things. I feel like I bought stuff which I liked, and I feel like I bought stuff which will have value in the future. And I really don't feel tempted to check that stuff. Maybe it's also helpful because there's no community or no community of collectors from artists who are sort of getting anxious together in a Discord. Whereas in the profile picture community / other NFT projects, there's always a Discord where people are congregated together and getting anxious, and that sort of breeds more anxiety. So maybe that's why. Maybe it's not that I actually like the art. It's just that the fact that there's no people constantly, talking about an artist that you hold, saying, "Oh, your floor price is going down," or "What's being done," or there's less kind of collective anxiety about art, and therefore you feel less anxiety.
Yeah, I think there's many reasons that tie into that. The community aspect that you mentioned certainly is one. Another one, in my opinion, is that art in general as an investment class has a way richer history, and people have the track record to trust in art. And it's also like the buying reason, because with art, I would assume many more people buy it because they like it, because it speaks to them in some way. Whereas with many other profile picture collections, a lot of the buying volume is just speculation on the prices going up. So yeah, I'm very comfortable as well with my art bags, with my art blocks. And I've also been, starting to evaluate my own NFT portfolio, because I think right now is the time to have a look at what are the, really long-term conviction plays in your portfolio. And the things that I like to look at are, well, first of all, what is the war chest that project has? Do they actually have the money to make it through a prolonged bear market? How is the team structured? Do they have the conviction to stay around to build? What are their plans? What do they want to build in this time? How's the community feeling? How's the community feeling in terms of, is it still active? Is there still discussion going on? Do they stand on good terms with the founders and support one another? And these are just some of, the aspects that I or questions that I start to ask myself, and look at also lower conviction plays of mine. And for me, thinking that now is the time to really consolidate once more on the projects that I really believe in.
Yeah. So going into this bear market stuff, you mentioned a lot of good kind of questions and considerations to start thinking about now. What is it what's the priority in this bear market? So obviously there's all sorts of macro stuff going on, which is making people worried and apprehensive. What's the priority for people, in your opinion? We don't know anything, but in your opinion, having been through a couple of bear markets, if there were three things that you would say, right, these are the three things that I am prioritizing now, what would they be?
If it only were one thing, I would say survive. Just survive the bear market. If you break it down, going a bit more into detail, is looking at your own portfolio, a bit like looking at a startup, right? The startup has a burn rate, the amount of cash it uses on a monthly basis, and it has, the amount of total cash reserves, money that it's holding, and figuring out how long can you make it through the bear market right now. If you consider your sources of income, you consider your expenses. Can you make it for a month? Can you make it for a year? Can you make it for 2 years? And, just being able to survive for 1 or 2 years and not having to sell everything that you have in crypto and not having to, leave the space for good is the number one priority, in my opinion. The second thing is don't try to, find the perfect bottom if you have the funds to accumulate more ETH, more Bitcoin. I think DCAing, dollar cost averaging, so buying on a recurring basis, all the way down is the smarter play to do. And number 3 goes a bit into what I said before, especially as this is NFT world. Look at your NFT portfolio, find out for yourself what projects you really, really believe in, stick with those, and question if you really want to hold all of the rest. Because if it's a low conviction play for you, and if it's a low conviction play for many people, it's going to be the first asset that is going to be sold off and dumped if the market continues its downtrend.
What do people do if they look at their portfolio and realize that everything is rubbish? Sell everything?
Well, if everything is rubbish and there's nothing to sell, I still think it goes back to number 1, surviving and staying around, and looking especially for teams that are building, are continuing to build, are starting, are launching right now. And because the market is going down, it doesn't mean that all teams start working on Web3 applications, PFPs, community building, etc. So if the entire NFT portfolio is rubbish, then I would still keep looking for new opportunities if the funds are available, and if there's just uncertainty about what is a good investment or not, because NFTs right now to invest in are extremely riskier than they normally are, then, as I said, surviving, and if there are additional available funds, and if it fits one's personal risk assessment and risk preference, DCAing into Bitcoin, DCAing into ETH could be a smart thing to do.
Yeah, I guess one of the things I'm thinking about is if people feel like what they hold is terrible, are they supposed to just burn it all and just get rid as quickly as possible because what they have is just not worth holding? And I think that's a difficult decision everyone is trying to make that decision at the moment to some degree, because no one has sold enough. No one will ever feel like they've sold enough, and I think that's completely fine. I sold a bunch fairly early in the year, actually but was it enough? Probably not. I don't think anyone has timed the top or anything close to the top as much as they would have liked to. So I think it's a decision that people will make on a case by case basis. But yeah, it's definitely not straightforward.
Yeah, but I think there's a very, very important learning, and why I keep stressing that surviving factor so much, because market always goes in cycle, and every time there's a bear market, there's people saying this time is different, this time we won't recover. But in all of humanity's history, we recovered from everything we faced so far in challenges. And just thinking of recent years with the beginning of the COVID pandemic, people are like, this is a virus that's going to wipe us all out, and the markets are not going to recover from this if we go into years of lockdown. And we figured that out as well, and the markets did um, recover back then. And yes, I get the thinking, because one is affected by the current bear market, and the thinking to say this time is different, this time we won't recover from that. But as I said, humanity will always recover, and we're gonna have another bull market. And if you're still around, make it through the bear market, are at the start of the next bull cycle, and have the learnings from the bear market as a bear market survivor, to invest maybe in multiple NFTs on the upcycle, take profits early if you buy like 3 NFTs of the same collection, pardon me, and take profits early, and you're gonna be in a very, very good position for the next upcycle. This is why I think that sticking around now and surviving once more is the most important thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think I also, one of the key things that I've been thinking about is what can people do to put themselves in a position to excel when people come back. And in the end, because I remember I came in probably not really in a bull, but definitely in a bullish market at the start of 2021. And it already seemed that there were certain voices and people who were established, who could, who had audiences, who could tweet things and have people respond, who could find things out from people who seemed like respectable people in the community. And that's super helpful, because I think having a good following and a good standing is a superpower in this space. And I know Zeneca has tweeted about this a couple of times, and other people as well, where they say like, if you have a good reputation and a good standing community, and you tweet a question about almost anything out in Twitter, like you basically don't have to use Google anymore, because you can ask anything and someone will answer for you, which is amazing, because you've provided so much help to other people. People are just willing to help you. And so I apply that to this situation now, where it's like, look, everyone's disappeared. What are you going to do? Are you going to disappear as well and only come back when the money comes back? Because if you do that, then when you come back, you're going to be in no more established position. You're going to be in that same kind of, in the same position where you're requiring help of other people. You need, you're going to have no influence or reputation, essentially, if you leave when the money leaves. And that's something I think about quite a lot at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think this applies to so many situations in life where, being persistent just wins. It's all about the consistency. It's about putting the work in, staying around, and not, disappearing when it gets tough. And also what I like to think is, right now with the 2022 bear, we have many people from 17, 18 saying, hey, we've been there. This has happened before. We're going to make it through this. And now we're going to have the survivors of 2022. And in the next bear market, say, I don't know, 2025, and there's going to be more people who had the experience of going through a bear market, and we'll be able to speak positively to the new arrivals of 2024, 2025, and say, hey, it's tough, but we've been there in 2022. It's worth to, fight this through and just to stay around. And I hope that this, positive vibe and just this learnings and experiences from people who have been there longer will be able to transpire in a broader way in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's one of the key things to keep in mind at the moment. But and then an additional thing, which I think is what we can transition to now, I guess, is what can you do when everyone leaves and things get quiet and things get a bit boring and the money leaves and things are not as profitable. It's like, well, it seems to be the case that there's nothing worth investing in because everything you buy might go down in value. Even cash itself is, with inflation just getting wrecked. So what can you do? Well, investing in yourself to me now seems to be one of your best options because in a sense, what else are you going to invest in that's going to give you a better profit than investing in yourself? And that's why I think the product which we've created in a sense, and I think the market is reflecting what I'm about to say, is that the product which we've created, which is an educational product, is something worth investing in and that people will value because no matter what's happening in the market or what the price is or how many people are here, learning about the fundamental core aspects of this ecosystem, whether it's NFTs and crypto and the blockchain, is going to be worthwhile in the future. Like if you believe that to be true, if you believe that this is the future, even if it is unprofitable from a moment, then learning the mechanics of it seems to me to be a very, very, very good thing to do. And what we're doing with Airdrop Season 1 is, yes, we're looking for airdrop opportunities on the one hand, but we're also making sure that people are able to navigate layer 2 solutions, play games on layer 2, undertake quests on layer 2, conduct swaps on layer 2, move your funds from mainnet to these other places, and function not as such professionally, but function confidently in this ecosystem when you might not be able to before. And I think that's a worthwhile investment to be making at the moment.
Yeah, and adding to that, of course, as you said, one thing is seizing the current opportunities, being able to get a couple of airdrops further down the line this year, but more importantly, understand what layer 2 is, understand what these protocols do, how they work, because this is not going to be the last step in evolution of ETH, in evolution of blockchains. And when the next product, the next technology is going to arrive in our Web3 space, you will be able to have a way better understanding of that. You'll be able to assess that way faster, just in the same way as the market cycles. Innovation in some way also cycles a bit, particularly in this space. We've seen this kind of repeating patterns with decentralized finance throughout the last 2 years. And as you said, now that activity is slowing down, that people are walking away, that there's not a free mint to chase on a daily basis, you have way, way more time on your hands. And I think, as you said, it's the best thing to always be investing in yourself and educating yourself.
Yeah, even if that there was a scenario where there were no airdrops in the next 6 months, say, even in that relatively unlikely scenario, given the way that protocols have tended to operate, those which favor a decentralized approach, even if that were the case, you would walk away with a huge amount of experience operating on a platform and protocols which 99% of the world don't know how to use, won't use, would be super unconfident with, and which we ultimately believe, if it is true that you believe that this is the future, you'll become fluent. And it's sort of like learning a language, isn't it? Like when you learn a language at the beginning, it's really, really hard, it's cumbersome, it's like you keep hitting walls, you start doing a little bit and then you get confused and you have to ask someone again, and then eventually you become fluent in it. And it's sort of like the difference between me and you using some of these platforms. You'll like whiz through it really, really fast, and it takes me a little bit longer. But I think that's the benefit of the experience, practical experience. And I think whether it's with our product or anything else in the space right now, I just think there's so much to learn and so much stuff that is confusing and difficult technically. And actually, I spoke about this in one of the talks I gave recently, where it was about the generational opportunity in NFTs. And on a personal level, one of my answers was there's so much opportunity here. And the reason is because everything's broken. Like
Yeah.
literally everything is broken. So if you just come in and learn how to use it, learn how to either fix it or alternatively explain to other people how to use it because it's broken in some weird way, then you're going to be able to provide value because it's a nascent space and it needs people's help. So that was one of my key reflections. Everything's broken. So just if you learn how to either fix it or help to explain how to use the broken thing, that's going to be very, very valuable.
Yeah, that's extremely valuable, and this is, this is a function not depending on the current price of ETH, because the underlying technology is still there, is still being built, and there's of course still, corporate entities and other people and players who are joining the space and need education and need the things to be fixed for us all being able to grow together. And also this experience, helps you when I was just recently looking at Starknet because it's something I want to explore with our class in Airdrop Szn, identifying actors that don't have the best of intentions. There was a protocol in Starknet, I don't want to name it right now, that was massively pushing in terms of communications, etc., and ultimately rug pulled and disappeared. And there's been a couple of red flags, and many voices in the community were speaking to that. And the lucky outcome was that not a lot of money disappeared in that rug pool, or was stolen in the rug pool, which would be the more correct term to use, because there's been these experienced people who were able to warn others, and these patterns again repeat themselves. And if you have the experience, you will be able to recognize good players and malicious players. Not always, of course, but I think it's still very, very valuable to just educate yourself on that.
Yeah, I agree. Education plus experience. And I think going through these slightly tougher times, and as you go back to your very, very first point, which is just survive, going through these tough times, learning more in the process is definitely the way to go, I think. Um, which goes quite nicely into our experience of launching 32 Dreams' first NFT, Airdrop Season 1. We launched on Sunday, which is probably, if not the worst possible day in this year, even maybe,
Yeah.
the worst day we could have possibly launched in the whole year. We launched on Sunday. Stuff was relatively slow. It still kind of is, but my key takeaway so far is that people are buying who want to buy for the right reason, which is that they want to learn about the decentralized protocols on layer twos, and they want to be part of a cohort doing it together. And I think that's so significant because one of the things that people mentioned to us was that, obviously we're in a free mint season, and some people are suggesting that things should be free, or certain things are too expensive. But you made a really good point, which is that if you were to launch a product for free and let the market determine its value, that assumes that the people buying are going to have to put it up for sale, which means that they don't want the product, which is a really, really backwards way of launching a product, because the whole point of our product is that you're actually supposed to want to use it and that you're not supposed to put it up for sale, which is fortunately what we've seen. So we've had almost 50 people join our cohort now, which is great, and none of them are for sale. I think that's a win.
That's incredibly amazing, especially in this environment. As I said, we launched on the worst day this year. we still had people, trusting us and saying like, okay, everything is going down, but I'm still going to use today to mint that, and I'm not going to put that up for sale. I'm going to buy it because it's a product I want to use, because I want to learn something about, Airdrop Szn, about layer 2. And I think it also goes to show, like, how kind of unusual it is that an NFT is product first, because this, general assumption of make it a free mint and have the market determine its value only works if there is no underlying product. Because if I have a free mint, which is a product, then I want to use it when I like it. And if I like it and it's beneficial to me, I'm not going to sell it. So there's not going to be a floor for that, because the only reason I would sell a product is if I don't like it and if it's not good. And then it also, again, has no value, because you wouldn't sell something that's useful to you right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really backwards way, a backwards line of questioning, which what's interesting is that it assumes that an NFT is useless and that it assumes that an NFT is made to be sold, which I think is a really, really important point. And I tweeted this yesterday, where if you think about it, our NFT, and maybe a few others as well, they're made to be used. They're made to be used. Whereas free mint, one of the primary purposes of free mint is that you sell it. Like, they're driving you to sell it, and because if you don't sell it, then there's no money for the creators, and that creates a perverse incentive where the NFT is not actually designed for you to use; it's designed for you to sell, which I think is a huge problem in some respects. We received one really interesting question, and since we were talking about the type of people who we've had join and buy in and join our Discord, an interesting question, which I think is reflective of the market in general at the moment, was two people reached out to us to kind of ask, we've seen that, you haven't minted out. Is it like, are your plans still going ahead? Are you here to stick around? What's your, like, have your plans changed in any way? How did you respond to that?
Yes, I said multiple things. So first of all, I said, the information and learnings they were creating with Airdrop Szn are information that we require ourselves either way, because we, the two of us, are seizing these opportunities. This was the first point. The second point is that, I am going to build this, you are going to build this, independent of how many people we have in our class. Because, for us to create the content, it doesn't matter if we build it for 50 or 500 people to have a look at, to study it and learn by it, right? That just doesn't make a difference. Third point, I've been around for the last bear market. I made it through. I'm going to be around, and I'm going to make it through this one as well. And in a sense, my reflection was that if anything, we're more like a traditional business. We had our mint, our initial sale, with the goal to break even on our costs that we incurred so far, developer, marketing, setting up the company structure, etc. And from now on, it's just building and growing the company like any other regular company would do. So with that being said, I think, the incentive to run away is higher if you have had a mint that's sold out and you don't have anything to build. And then you have projects, who ask the question, okay, couldn't I just, rug pull my own community and take that 7-figure revenue or whatever that I just made?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because in a way, it's funny that we got the question, are you going to stick around? Are you going to run away because we didn't sell? When actually, surely the question actually makes more sense the other way around. Like, if we give you 500K at the beginning for not having done anything,
yeah,
surely in that situation you're more likely to run away because you haven't actually had to do anything. You've managed to find or raise, six figures plus without really putting in any work. That's the scenario where people would run away, I would have thought.
Yeah,
And
this is
actually,
certainly when the temptation is way higher to do that.
yeah, so it's actually an interesting question because what we're doing now is probably more alike to what traditional startups have to do. Like you have to get some money together, build, and your first month or two you might be hovering around kind of break even / making a little bit of profit, and you have to prove to the market that you are good at what you do, which I'm actually super happy with and super confident and up for that challenge. And I think that creates better incentives for us and our NFT holders than a scenario where we mint out, we make six figures, and then are we as incentivized to keep building, to keep progressing, to keep pushing? Now, on a personal level, I would say yes, because we're here to do that. That's what we're super committed to do that. But I actually think this is a nicer, more natural way for someone to try to build a business where you get an initial product market fit. We know that people want the product, and we got an opportunity now to prove that to more people over time. And I think that creates a better incentive for everyone.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, this is just a way more natural fit. And when I reflect upon it, especially in our case, being product first and having the educational material, having the course on airdrops on layer 2 and all the other stuff that we have planned for our cohort to educate them on and to talk about.
Yeah, I agree. And then my final reflection on it really is, well, I mean, there's a bunch of reflections that we've taken away and a bunch of things we've got planned and thinking about how we can move things forward. But in a sense, all we needed for an initial launch for a product which is kind of product first and cohort based is a cohort. Like we need a cohort of people who want to go on this journey together. And by having almost 50 people sign up now, like that's a legit cohort. That's a lecture hall full of people. It's like a couple of classrooms worth of people from all walks of life, different places in the world. And that is really, really cool. And I'm really confident that, over time, we'll just, by word of mouth / through some of the things that we've got planned coming up, we'll just keep adding slowly to the cohort by continuing to deliver value and also a few surprises and bonus pieces of content. And we'll keep sharing those as we go.
Yeah, and especially one thing that I'm super, proud of and super happy with is that people who are joining us right now, and they are not joining us because of hype, because of general market hype bull cycle. They're joining us in, one of the worst days for ETH this year so far, are very, I think a very resilient community, a very resilient foundation that we are building and growing from here. Because if they join us at ETH's worst and we deliver and we are very confident about what we are building, they're going to stay with us and when ETH is at its best as well.
Yeah, I agree. I'm super happy with the people that we've got in so far. Would we have preferred to have more sales? Of course. But at the same time, this is an unbelievably challenging environment. We had multiple messages from people to say like that they were communicating that they were legit scared about the market right now. That they've either liquidated various things and they're sitting in stables, or that they just, they don't want to make any trades for the moment and just want to see things pan out. It's like, look, I completely get it. I completely understand. I'm very empathetic to the people who are going through a tougher time at the moment. And yeah, it's a tough time. We're we're really happy with the amount of people who've joined so far, and we're ready to kick on as soon as Arbitrum Odyssey actually starts. So, as a quick question from me to you, because I don't actually know the answer to this, it hasn't started yet, has it? So we've still got a bit more time to prepare, which we have actually done, because we produced some content, like a week 0 content for our people, for our holders to access straight away, which I think was a good idea. But Arbitrum haven't started, is that right?
Yes, it hasn't started yet. The most current communication on their Discord is that it's starting mid-June. Like, this was a frequently asked question thing that was updated a couple of days ago. So if they won't postpone it from there, well, mid-June means that it probably could start next week. But as you see, we don't know, so I don't want to speculate on a precise starting date when we don't have one yet.
That's cool. So if anything, it gives everyone a little bit more time to get their funds onto Arbitrum, and use our tutorials to do that. We've got 3 types of content in our Discord, the way we produce that. How did you structure it, Legendary?
The 3 types of content on our Discord?
Yeah, like the 3 different types of information, the way we presented it for our holders.
Oh, yeah, that's what you're saying. On the one hand, we have the video content that goes most in depth about the protocols, about the Arbitrum bridge, about hash flow in the precise example of the week 0 content, and has the most information for those who just prefer watching a video and seeing us using the protocol, doing the transactions, and speaking to the best practices and safety pitfalls. We have clickable tutorials as well for those who just want to do it and have a step-by-step tutorial that they can click through that. And the third is we also have PDF guides. So I think that should be very appealing to different learning styles.
Yeah, and so the good thing is, so you've got the videos which are kind of with us speaking over the tutorial, so you can see Legendary literally clicking the buttons and me asking questions as to why it's important to do the things that he's doing. And then in the clickable tutorials, that's just like PDFs or links to screenshots of like, do this, do that, with a nice screenshot of where you are on the screen to make sure you go through the journey properly. So that's the good content we've got in there so far. There'll be lots more of that in that type of nature. Looking forward to do more. Legendary, I know that you're running on a bit shorter on time today, so let's call it there. Thanks very much. It's good stuff, man.
Thank you. Excited for the future and the next pieces of content that we're producing this week, actually.
Indeed. Okay. Sounds good, man. We'll talk later. Thanks for listening, guys. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.